Hello and welcome back to Typographics. I'm Mike Essel. I'm Dean of the Cooper Union School of Art. And since today is our last day, I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for joining us for 10 days of Typographics. We hope you enjoyed this year's festival, and we hope to see you next year. Thank you to all our speakers for your wonderful presentations. Thank you to all of our curators and my Cooper Union family for all your work on Typographics. And finally, thank you to all of our sponsors. We couldn't do this without you. And before we introduce today's curator, we would like to share with you some special typographic animations made by our sponsors specifically for this year's online conference. Enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. Quick thank you to Mike Essel for closing today's event, or opening the closing of today's event. And thank you again for all the sponsors. My name is Alexander. I'm a Cooper Union alum and the curator of its Herbal Balance Study Center of Design Typography. This is where I'm joining you all from, minus my virtual background. I'm physically there. This event is presented by Type Cooper and the Herbal Balance Study Center at the Cooper Union. As Mike mentioned, this is our 7th edition. I can't believe it's seven annual Typographics conferences. Despite the pandemic, we're happy to continue to do this and offer this to the world. And thanks to Zoom, we're able to do this in a virtual format and to do it in a very meaningful, thoughtful way, we hope, that connects us all a little bit more during this difficult stretch of time that the world is going through. And so we hope that this is doing a little bit of connecting us together. This is our 10th session of 10 of our 5-week marathon. Including today's presenters, we have had and we'll have 39 speakers altogether and 11 curators, and that spans 28 countries in probably nearly every time zone. So it's kind of amazing that we're able to do this, and it's been a lot of fun, and we're very excited. If you missed any of the sessions, you can catch them on our Cooper Union's YouTube channel. I just posted in the chat a link to the playlist that will have all the previous events, so you can catch up and watch anything that you might have missed. So we have an amazing roster, and including the session from today will be on there. Without further ado, I would love to introduce today's curator and the host and moderator for today's session, Anuthin Wongsunkakon. And I'd love to say a few words to introduce Anuthin and welcome to the stage. Anuthin is a typeface designer based in Bangkok, Thailand. He's one of the partners of Katsan Damak, the first Thai communication design firm with a prime focus on typographic design. He studied graphic design at Rangsit University, and after he completed his bachelor's degree, he came here to New York to continue his studies at Pratt Institute, where he trained with Tony Despina. And Tony Despina, of course, is a disciple of Herbal Balance, so everything comes back kind of full circle in this really lovely way. And of course, I'm in the archive physically, where the work of both Herbal Balance and Tony Despina, as well as Anuthin's and Katz and Damak's material is in our collection as well. We have a lovely collection of type specimens, so it's great to have all of the dots kind of connecting together. Anuthin Studio is known for providing exclusive font for companies in Thailand, such as Telnor, Nokia, Tesco, and Thai edition of international magazines, such as Vogue, GQ, and Wallpaper. He also localized the classic typefaces Helvetica, Neue Helvetica, and Frutiger from Monotype. His work is recognized by major companies such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, and they supply high-quality typeface design with extensive research about Thai typefaces and typography. Besides being a designer, Anuthin is a writer, a design educator. He is also the Thailand ASI member since 2017. And we were just talking right before we started in 2016. He was here, right here in New York City at Cooper Union, presenting during the second edition of Typographics. And it's wonderful to have him back here. So thank you, Anuthin, for curating today's program, for hosting our presentations. And welcome back to the Typographic stage.
Thank you very much, Sasha. It was a very, very nice introduction. I hope it's not overclaimed. Okay, well, good evening or good morning. Should I say good morning or should I say good afternoon? Well, anyway, wherever the audience are, welcome to this session, the last day of Typographics. Well, today should be a good day. Thank you for tuning in. This is well, I would call it when we have a little chat with all the speaker in this session. We want to make it like Southeast Asian Day. And I think it's a good opportunity to shed some light into this part of the world, this region, which is, I normally refer it as a black hole in terms of type and typography landscape. So it's a good opportunity for us to have a quick tour, over Southeast Asia, and it's a new territories that's I think we have, we all have thing to talk about. So we're gonna take a quick tour from Malaysia and then go to Thailand and hop over to Cambodia. Since we have more speaker than every other session before us, I will give use this as an excuse to keep a short introduction to introduce you guys to all the speaker that we have today. Muthu, Malaysian legend type designers and developer. Every time I ask for some name, ask all the expert for some name for Southeast Asian script and all this technical stuff, his name always come up first. So the next one is Joanne. Joanne is a visual storyteller, graphic artist, creative director of Functionist Studio. And also Shirley, longtime friends, type designer, educator, artist, you name it, KBK alumni, and founder of Huruf. And two from Kasandimak is Knaz and Promphan. They both senior type designers and also international correspondent and also a retail manager specialist. And the last two would be the team from Cambodia, which is Bot and Sovichet, which I always call him by the name Ted. So there's two guys from Phnom Penh, very young and upcoming type plus design studio called Anakata, which is I'm glad that they're here. So you know, not often that we would hear some report from this part of the world. So we're gonna start with Malaysian crew. So if you guys are ready, take away from me.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We are pleased to talk to you from Malaysia. And as Anuthin said, there will be three of us talking in the first session. My name is Muthu Nedumaran, and my colleagues, Sueh and Joanne, will present shortly. This is the title of our talk that you see on the slide. It's in 4 different languages, written in 4 different scripts. All these languages and scripts are widely used in Malaysia. I'll talk about the scripts later, but I'm happy to let you know that the typefaces used in this slide were all done by Malaysians, all of the scripts. These are some pictures from different parts of the country. We have left the city photos because, you know, all of you know cities are, well, cities, right? But these are photos from the outskirts. You'll see them all over the country, be it the peninsula or East Malaysia. The photos show all kinds of activities, some giving you a feeling as if you are in a different country altogether. The last row shows examples of signages where different scripts are used on the same board. The bottom right corner shows a popular danger sign in 5 different languages. Now, this is all very common. Now, this slide shows the 4 main scripts that we use across the country. Latin, which is used to write Malay, English, and other native languages in East Malaysia, like Iban, Kandazan. Jawi, which is the Arabic script that was used to write Malay before the adoption of Latin. Chinese, and Tamil. Now, Jawi is still one of the official scripts for writing the Malay language, and it is still taught in national and religious schools. The chart shows the structure, the rhythm, and direction of these scripts. The interesting thing is they are all different. It's quite common to see signboards and posters or other materials printed in all these 4 scripts, just like you saw in our title slide. Now, my area of work is in designing typefaces and developing input methods for complex writing systems. I've done some work in Jawi, especially in building a transliterated keyboard for Jawi input, and still work on other apps that promote the usage of the script. However, the work that I'm known for is Tamil, so I'll talk about that in a bit. This is one of my most successful Tamil typefaces. I designed this in 1989 when I did not know much about typeface design. This typeface evolved over the years. Today, it is the default UI font for Tamil in Apple and HTC's Android devices. It did go through some design changes and a name change over the period. Here are some screenshots from an iPhone showing the notification screen in the lock screen. a Wikipedia page, an app settings screen as examples. All of these are shown in that font that I showed you. This font is also used as the official font for, okay, that's a little window in my screen.
There's a builder, sorry to interrupt, there's on the left side of the screen, there's a builder app window. It's blocking part of the slides.
Okay, let me see.
I don't know if you could close that. Yep, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Back online, thank you. Now this font is also used as the official font.
It's back on screen for some reason.
Ah. Okay, let me quit this. Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this font is also used as the official font for education materials in Malaysia and Singapore. School textbooks, exam papers, etc. are set in this font. And here are some pages from the Malaysian school textbook. This is used as the official textbooks in Malaysian schools. And you can see some of the pages where they have actually printed the text to show children or students how the letters are written. Here's an example of a signboard in Singapore that shows that the text being used in the title. Here's another example. It's called the Future of Us exhibition video with simultaneous subtitles on my phone. It's like a rolling text on a video. Now, some time ago, the Education Ministry in Singapore wanted me to make some changes to some of the forms to cater to their standard letter forms. Now, these forms are what they use to teach children in schools. So they wanted the consistent form across education materials. This slide shows what they sent me, just as a requirement. There are some more. I'm just showing you a few to give you an idea. These were the initial forms before the change. And these are the forms after the change. I'm sure you can figure out what changed, right? I'm just kidding. It's quite a lot. I'll just show you some examples. The loops that descend below the baselines are open in the initial one. And I mean, they are closed in the initial one, but they're open in the new one. The vowel sign for the letter ta, which is the second row, is slightly slanted because that's how it's written when you write with a pen. The length mark, which is on the right of the glyph in the last row, is reduced in size because there's another letter that looks exactly the same called la. So the length mark is made smaller to differentiate between the two. This is like making the lowercase l slightly different from the uppercase I in a sans serif typeface, just to show differentiation. Well, that was one of my popular Tamil typefaces. Now, this is a new typeface of mine designed for harmonious coexistence between multiple scripts. It's available for use in macOS Catalina and later. You can just download it using a font window. Unlike the Latin world, where one script is used to write dozens of languages, Indian languages in general are written in their own script. Devanagari and Bengali are used to write more than one language, but there are dozens of other major languages that are written with unique scripts of their own. I chose these three scripts because Tamil is the language we use here in Malaysia and Singapore. Devanagari is the most widely used script in India, and English is spread all over as a major other language in these regions. Now, the design goal is to closely resemble handwriting. What if someone wrote in all the scripts using the same marker on the same paper? That was like the design goal. So the stroke widths, terminals, the modulation are all harmonized. The headline is slightly raised above the X height in Devanagari. Otherwise, the forms will look a bit congested compared to the other two. Latin is condensed a little, since the stroke density in Latin is lower than that of Indian scripts. A slight condensed version will prevent them from visually dominating the others. That was what I learned. Latin in this font also covers non-English languages, and those extensions were done for me by my colleague Sueh, who's going to be talking next. I'd like to show just one feature I added in this using OpenType. If you see the headline, it has a blob at the beginning, at the end of the word. Let's see what happens if you put a break in between. Now you see that blobs get inserted at the end of the first and the beginning of the second word. What happens if you close the gap back? The blobs disappear. This is done by adding features to the font through OpenType. Some of these may not work across other implementations, for example, Windows. We hope the platforms will get updated soon so we can do more cool things like this in our fonts. I'm adding more scripts to Ane, some by myself and some with design partners. Now, before I finish my part, I'd like to show you something that I've just launched in the Mac App Store. I made fonts for over a dozen South Asian and Southeast Asian scripts over the last few decades. While drawing the letters can be fun, making them work correctly across each script can be a tedious process. Well, I'm an engineer, so I can write the script shaping rules myself. But even then, it'll be so much easier if I have some tools that do that work for me. So I wrote my own tools over the years. I collected all those tools and integrated them into a single app. It's called Hibiscus, named after the national flower of Malaysia, but with a Z. It's free and it's open source. The feedback has been very encouraging so far. Now, here's a user in Indonesia working on the shaping rules for Javanese script. He jumped into the Hibiscus the moment I sent out the word, a tweet, and he was overjoyed what he was able to do, something he was not able to do before. He was able to proof the typeface, check it across different letters, combinations, seeing marks attached to the correct positions and all that stuff. Well, as I said, it's free. You can download it from the Mac App Store, and you can get more details from that web URL. Now, I'd like to hand over to Sueh, our next speaker.
Thanks, Muthu. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Shirley, founder of Huruf. Huruf means letter in Malay. And we are a type collective that aims to inspire typography in Malaysia through organizing type events and conducting research. So actually, Muthu was one of our speakers, and we also collaborated with Fictionist Studio to co-organize this Glyphs event. I also run a multilingual type studio called Huruf Type based in Kuala Lumpur. We basically do everything related to type, such as custom type, font production, language extension, lecturing, and more. Today, I'm going to share about 2 projects. The first one is custom type for Grab. Grab is a super app in Southeast Asia, similar like Uber. And during a brand refreshment in 2019, they engaged me to create a custom tag that evolved from their logo and their super graphic. And they would like a Grab typeface that caters to all the Southeast Asian scripts. And the design process started by logo refinement first. I redraw the logo and adjust the necessary to make it more adaptable into a legible inline typeface. And then expanded to the other character set. The typeface have 2 styles, which is inline and solid with 5 weights. And the design of the letter form was inspired by the movement of the super graphic. The DNA of this typeface is the special ligatures that derive from the logo. And here are the shortlisted ones after some explorations. And the ligatures will only appear at certain brand keywords in the text to ensure a great rhythm in the typeface. Some applications here. Grab is becoming part of our everyday life and also part of our landscape in Malaysia. So I think what's most fulfilling of this project is we get to see the typeface everywhere in our living environment. and also the collaborations with other talented Southeast Asian type designers. So we have Custom Dimat that work on Thai script, Anakata on Khmer, and Mausang on Burmese. Actually, it's amazing to see how they translate the graphical expressions uniquely in their own scripts. Custom Dimat team and Anakata will talk about that later. So entering into the second project now. So one of our biggest interests is exploring Malaysian typographic identity that is related to culture, language, and history. Gada-gada is a display typeface that's inspired by vernacular signs in Malaysia, designed by me and my colleague Shin. And gada-gada means many shops in Malay. The Latin fonts on our multilingual signs are usually condensed, especially when paired with Chinese characters that have a shorter weave. And here are some of our observations of unusual letter form that we collected from existing signs that were captured into the typeface. Through this revival project, we hope to document part of our typographic heritage in Malaysia through the form of typeface. And we are also curious to see gada-gada in other Malaysian scripts. So here are our explorations on Chinese, Jawi, and Tamil with advice from Muthu. There's also Korean because Shin used to study in South Korea. And we are excited to see gada-gada Chinese in use in this amazing identity project done by Kaukau Studio. And Gada-gada Merdeka is another variant of the typeface that was designed with the spirit of Merdeka, which translated as independence from colonialism and narrow dogmatism in Malay. We experiment with how Latin alphabets can be inflected by the non-Latin alphabets. Here you can see the Latin typography is trying to adapt the behavior and aesthetic sensibilities of Arabic, Tamil, and Chinese. Some sketches that we experiment with the same principles. For example, the Arabicized Latin enable different glyphs to conjoin and form unusual ligatures. And here are some alternate characters that adapt the curvilinear texture of Tamil, and Sinicized Latin in vertical direction and logographic form that was influenced by the Chinese. The result of the experiment was applied on this wall poster designed for an exhibition in South Korea, curated by Suki and Min and Tetsuya Goto. Here's the close-up of the poster. And our researcher Zihao also used the typeface to reimagine a multilingual signboard for this fried noodle store that presenting the Malay, Chinese, and English all together in Latin alphabets. It made me think of, can this be another way of coexistence? That's all for my section. I will pass on to Joanne now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now, right? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne and founder of Fictionist Studio, a multidisciplinary creative studio based here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I started Fictionist in 2014 after spending quite a few years abroad, working in cities like New York and Singapore. It was only after voting for the first time in 2013 that I decided to move back to Malaysia to start a design practice. Somehow, I just had the sudden yearning to contribute to the creative landscape here. That yearning turned into years of learning and churning as we worked on a variety of projects ranging from branding, packaging, digital, installation, and editorial design, basically anything that involved the birth of an idea. Here's a visual mashup of some of the projects we've worked on. For today's talk, I've selected 3 projects which exemplifies the use of typography with graphical expression in visual storytelling, underscored by the multi-dimensionality of our identity. I will not be delving too deep into each project, but just touching upon them slightly so that you can get a sense of a range by the end of the session. First up, I'd like to introduce to you the Royal Press, one of the oldest surviving polyglot letterpress museums in the world, dedicated to preserving the craft of letterpress printing. Founded in 1938, it used to be a letterpress printing establishment, which eventually ceased operations due to the advent of offset printing technology. It took about roughly a decade or so to restore the space to the condition that you can actually see here, and was set to be open to the public last year in 2020. It has an extensive letter block library that houses over 150,000 blocks in 4 different language types: Roman alphabets, Chinese characters, Arabic, and Tamil scripts. As you can see here, there is a combination of Latin and non-Latin character sets. Endless cases upon cases of gorgeous metal type, all of them reminders of a gloried printing past. The Royal Press also has a robust archive of printed materials dating back 8 decades, including medicine boxes, wine labels, newspapers, academic textbooks, bus tickets, liquor labels, and more, as you can see here. The vintage medicine boxes are particularly charming in both the choice of typography, layout, color, and illustrations, unlike the more sterile modern packaging we see today. They became the basis of our inspiration when the Royal Press approached us to design a launch gift pack to inaugurate its opening. Unfortunately, the launch was cancelled due to the pandemic. We quickly pivoted and adapted the packaging into a digital version. We conceptualized this project called Obat Sakit Hati. In Malay, it translates to heartache remedy, a series of tongue-in-cheek fictional packaging for imagined remedies to help us cope with the uncertain times. We borrowed visual elements from the archive packaging and designed 3 remedies: global headache oil, gloom doom remedy, and emergency candy, as you can see here, to alleviate the pain, darkness, and bitterness as we navigated the pandemic. We used 3 different languages for the design: Chinese, Malay, and English. And we injected a little bit of humor in it as well. Since we couldn't print them, we translated them into 3D renderings and launched an Instagram interactive campaign, which was around April last year, just as the pandemic peaked. So we thought that these tongue-in-cheek graphics would be able to provide some sort of cheer to those who interacted with them, whilst also bringing awareness to the museum. All right, moving on to the next project, which I'm going to talk about, is a result of an observation of existing real estate advertising graphics around Malaysia. As we all know, the pulse of a capitalist society beats to the rhythm of trades and transactions, as evidently portrayed by promotional banners on storefronts and residential properties as shown here. We are constantly reminded of what we can potentially own or rent. Using the vernacular of real estate outdoor advertising, I wanted to subvert the traditional tenets of marketing by replacing large contact numbers with emotional nouns. Titled Emotion Promotion is a public intervention piece, and I hope to stop people in their tracks as they question themselves about the humanity in us all and the intangible spaces we can own, which begs the question, can pride or ego be sold or rented? I mimicked the vernacular typical banner designs and printed them in the same vinyl material. I then hung them in the areas which were peppered with these banners and snap photographs. At a glance, you would not notice that anything is amiss, as the emotive banners blended seamlessly against the background, but upon closer inspection, you'll probably look twice. These photographs were then exhibited at the Creative Arts Festival here in Malaysia. The final project I'm going to talk about is rooted in our multi-ethnic and multiracial traditions. Here in Malaysia, we celebrate all kinds of festivals, one of the major ones being the Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year. Red envelopes or ang paos, as we call them here, are money packets given out as a symbolic gesture of good luck and to ward off evil spirits. Most of them feature common culturally auspicious motifs, such as birds or flowers, and the Chinese type is often set in a calligraphic style as shown here. We started designing our own red packets a few years back as a form of self-promotion and expression, and each time we try to disrupt the traditional visual tropes that are usually associated with it, but not without considering the traditional meaning behind its usage and symbolism. Here are some of the festive packages we've designed, but for today, I'm just going to hone in on project number 3, Ox in a Box. Here's an overview image of the gift pack Ox in a Box. And it was for this year's Lunar New Year, and the zodiac for this year 2021 is the ox, a headstrong and driven animal. The gift pack is showcased as a spin-off of the jack-in-a-box format and mechanism. The outer box sports a barn house silhouette and holds a slim box, which upon opening, an ox leaps out into a 3D form. The ox boasts custom-drawn Chinese typography on all its facets, set in rainbow holographic foil printing, as well as the ang pao packets you see here. Ox is not an animal that one will associate with the leaping motion, but we wanted to challenge ourselves to make it jump, a metaphor for us to make leaps and bounds in the coming year. The exterior of the red packets display custom-drawn Chinese characters, pu pu gao sheng, an auspicious greeting which means ascending to greater heights, which you can see here. Here are some sketches done by one of the designers in my team, David Ho. We wanted both the Chinese and English letter forms to evoke a sense of elastic bounds, so he did some sketches that sort of like mimic that sort of movement. We also custom designed the die line for the paper ox and embellished different facets of the body with customized Chinese character. Each character has an auspicious meaning. Here's another beautiful pen sketch done by David to ensure that each character filled up each facet container snugly. He then digitized them in glyphs. The character on the left is Si, which means happiness, and on the right is Fa, which means prosperity. It was a great exercise in experimenting with custom Chinese lettering. The stylized forms created an overall textural outlook, almost like a manifestation of type as image. Typography here became more descriptive than prescriptive. As I conclude our talk today for the Malaysian session, many of you would probably pose this question to us: how do we overcome the complexity of Malaysia's multilingual landscape? I speak for my Malaysian comrades as well that I believe in somehow in our own way, more than overcoming it, we choose to embrace it instead. There are some instances where we don't have to design in more than 2 languages, as it depends on the market segments that we are designing for. But when there's an opportunity to do so, we allow our multitudes to be inspiring instead of inhibiting. Using a diamond as a metaphor, we are highly multifaceted, and when light hits, a beautiful refraction occurs. That is the beauty of diversity, of being plural. It illuminates, vibrates, and highlights that although we are a mixed bag, we are one of a kind in our differences, and that unites and defines us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a huge thanks to Typographics, and especially Anuthin, for inviting us to talk about our cultural and typographic landscape. If any of you guys plan to visit Malaysia in the near future, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
Thank you very much, you guys. That was very refreshing. And actually, Joanne already touched the part that I would like to ask about, like living in like truly multilingual societies, like how that will lead to the question, like how do you deal with like you know, all kind of scripts and in the real world, because writing direction, the weight and width, you know, in terms of a mix and match in graphic design, typography work.
Yes.
Who would like to answer that question?
You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and especially when the writing systems come from very different traditions. You know, you have some that are brush written, some are pen written, some are stylus on a palm leaf. So they have very different backgrounds, very different writing traditions. But and of course, it's very difficult to carry all of those traditions when you design for harmony. You just have to mix and match and find where you can harmonize the stroke forms, harmonize particularly the terminals, the straight lines. You look for common features across all those scripts, and then you focus on them first, and then the rest of them will fall in place.
Okay, well, that's for short. We don't have a luxury of time to go over all the detail. But again, let me remind all the audience that you can leave Q&A in the Q&A function. There's a button on your screen, and let me move on to the next one, which is actually directly to Shirley about Grab project. There's a question from Joy asking about the cool ligature in, I think Joy referred to Grab project. And I also want to add to that question about how, in terms of from the business angle, like managing this project with multiple script, multi languages to serve Southeast Asian unicorn like Grab.
Okay, so the question is, different letters can link that way in different language and letter system, right? I was reading that question.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, when I have that idea, I do check out with other native type designers, for example, the custom demand and also the Sovichet about the possibilities of doing the graph ligatures in Thai and also Khmer script. And then they say it's possible. So yeah, that's why I go ahead to do it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Because, well, as we know, the Latin, you can easily kind of weave things together. But for other language like Thai or Khmer, weaving things together or have them connect maybe lead to a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I think my question to you on top of Joy question is like, how you determine things during the whole process, other than just consult to the specialist.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
I mean, like design direction.
Oh, okay. Actually, the design direction is very clear. Like everything goes back to the logo, which becomes the source of truth for the whole brand. Even the grid system that I use it to draw the logo, it will eventually expand to the other brand assets. Like for example, the icons and even illustrations, they are using the same visual language that is following the logo. And also, I think the other Southeast Asian scripts as well, like when we are working together to came out with the direction. Yeah. So I think the design direction is pretty clear and straightforward.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Malaysian time. Well, I wish we have more time to do this Q&A. I have to cut it short, but feel free, you know, all the audience out there, feel free to leave the comments. And I think all the speaker would love to get back to that on the Q&A part of the screen. So, well, before we move on to, thank you very much again. Yay.
Thank you.
Before we move on to Thailand, well, we would have a small break. We would like to share you with the typographic animation made by our sponsor for this year conference, and we will be back right after this.
And he wakes up and his arm is doing the thing it's kind of glowing whenever he turns it on. So I think he finally like unlocked 100%.
All right, welcome back to Typographics 2021. Today is the last day of the conference, the 10 days. This is a marathon conference, and we make today Southeast Asian Day. And we're gonna move over, come back to my hometown, Thailand. So Promphan and Kanat, take it away.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Let's pray.
Okay. Hi, my name is Promphan Suksumek.
Hi, I am Knaz Uiyamathiti. We are a type designer at Katsandima.
So I think it's already mentioned previously that Katsandima all. So I would just give like a brief description about Katsandima, that we are a type foundry based in Bangkok, Thailand. Other than that, we also do the design service. And also we have a yearly conference or BITS conference or Bangkok International Typographic Symposiums. Other than that, we also do the self-publishing book, and also like we have our records and do the podcast. So here is the pictures of our office. It was located in our office building, or in the center of Bangkok, Thailand. Yeah, and this is our country we are living in. So I would rather not explain much about my country, just let the picture demonstrate it. Sum up everything.
Yeah.
Our situation right now. Okay, so today we are going to talk about typographies and type design in Thailand. So mainly, I think please take it as a report that what we are right now, where we are heading to. So for those of you who are not familiar with our Thai, in Thailand, we use Thai language and we have a Thai script. So our Thai script has been divided into two main categories. So the one with the loopless and the other one is the loop version. And some of you might think that the loopless will be pairing with the sans serif and the loop one will be used with the serif. However, it's not set in stone like that. Actually, we are more flexible than that. And with this talk, we will demonstrate. We will tell you about how we actually use it in a real situation right now. And this page is actually taken from their Thai type pairing by Smith Samalok, which is already gave a talk about our Thai type pairing in detail last year at a Type High conference, online conference. Before we talk about now, I would like to give you a brief history about our Thai loop and loopless a little bit. Actually, when we learn Thai or we start to learn Thai, we start to learn it with the loop version. So therefore, with the loop, it's kind of like it's become easy for us to read in the body text, and nowadays it's also used in a book or a novel for a long reading. However, for the loopless version, loopless is also not new. It's not just like recently happened. It has been around since 1913. The first time that I think it's appeared, it's by Prince Narisara Nuwatiwong handwriting, and it was style handwriting created by the board knit pen. After that, it's got implemented over time, and a lot of designers use this style of handwriting, and it's got developed into a various form.
Yeah, you can assume that it happened because we lack of like headline font size, so they decide to like use handwriting to make a headline.
Mm-hmm. Like this book, for example, this book is a study book, which is dated in 1961. And with that style of handwriting, it's got developed over time, and it's especially got more varieties after the colonial period, which is around like 1960, because of the Western influence. And then we kind of like adapt to that, and it's very visible on a Thai movie poster at that period of time. There are like a hand-drawn poster. So basically those kind of like typography are all hand-drawn in a stylistic way. However, that circular area that look like our O in Latins, it's actually our O in Thai. And with this, all of the text, we can read it like, we can all easily read it. It's legible to us. And this is the point where I think I realize that we actually have more flexibility in reading the loopless version since the old day. And later on, after the photo typesetting period, in around like 1970 to 1980s, there are a mixed use of the type loop and the loopless together in one layout. Like this one also like the movie poster again. However, we believe this type of usage are happening because of a lacking of the weights varieties and also their point size varieties as well. So mainly their highlight is in the apart from the headline, mainly the information is in the loop, and the highlights and some spot will using a different typeface, like just change the typeface completely. So it's a mixture between the loop and the loopless. And we cannot talking about the evolutions of their loopless without talking about the dry transfer or the golden era of their loopless period, which has happened during the same period as the photo typesetting. At that moment, we have a lot of a Western import and export product. Therefore, there's a need for type to pair with the Latins. So here comes the varieties of loopless in different version with contrast, with a more simplified form. And for example, like the serif in loop version as well, like the one on the right of the screen.
Okay, this is one of the famous Thai loopless font from the dry transfer era. This font is Manoptica by Ajahn Manop Srisampon, which decided to use with Helvetica for the car advertising.
Import car advertising.
Yeah, import car advertising. You could see the white line in the picture, which is Law Lure. You could see that they have two styles of Law Lure, which are traditional one and S-shape, look like Latin. Based on Ajahn Manop's interview, he told us that Law Lure in the S-shape is more popular and got widely used among the design agency. From that period, we keep seeing this as a common practice for Thai loopless in today's advertising. To give you guys a better pictures, I went to my social media timeline to collect some digital artwork in a different field to show what style of the letter is in use nowadays. It appears that they keep using Thai loopless in their ad. And you could recognize that we also have the Thai loopless with serif style pairing with the Latin serif as well. Even from the government public relations department, they are posting the daily COVID situation in Thailand with Thai looplet in use as well.
So actually, it's kind of like be more. It's actually acceptable. That is what I would like to say.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's not just in their in the area of commercial ads, but it's actually widely used and it's widely adopted by like the government and like the normal news that we see every day. Other than that, it's become common when the international brand would like to expand their chains in Thailand, they would prefer the Thai versions of the CI fonts, which is what Sueh already mentioned about Grab, that we had a chance to design the Thai versions of Grab Inline and Grab Solid. And from the previous year, in 2016, Grab is also using Sanomat, the typeface designed by Commercial Type. And so we had a chance to design Sanomat Grab Thai as well in 2016. And not only the international brand, but also the local brand required custom typeface. This is a rebrand project we did for Krung Thai Local Bank. And within the design system, both loop and loopless got required. Mainly the loopless will be used on the advertisement and on the applications or the digital mobile banking application that they are using right now. However, apart from the document that using loop, in the ATM machines as well also using the loop Thai in their machines. We assume that the reasons behind is because using loop is safe in terms of accuracy. It has a high legibility across all ages, especially the older generation.
So in the other hand, they use Thai loopless in their mobile app, which is mainly used by the younger people.
Mm-hmm. So the pictures demonstrate the loop in use in their two top, and the two bottoms of the pictures is their advertisement in the ATM machines that they're still like using the loop, the loopless. Mm.
Yeah. So in the UI perspective, other than the modern look from the Thai loopless, it takes up less space compared to the loop version, which could benefit to design in the smaller size of the screen, especially for the like sometimes we need very condensed version, so the loopless is going to benefit more.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, in Thai, we have top and bottom vowel in the form of tone mark. So you could see that the Thai loop require more like vertical matrix than the Thai loopless. And most of the time, it's when we have the project, we have to share the vertical matrix with the Latin, which is Thai have to Thai cannot took a lot of vertical matrix at the common Thai loop version. So if we take like normal vertical matrix from Thai loop, it on the second floor of tone mark, it might get cut off. So this problem is gonna benefit more if you use the Thai loopless version.
Mm.
So to demonstrate the previous case with our last year project, the custom typeface design for Bangkok Bank, which is require both loop and loopless version, but they mainly focus for the UI usage. So the vertical matrix become main concern from their developers. So they agree with us to use the loopless for the UI in the mobile app and the website, but they also need the like Thai loop to use for the body text and really small size.
So in order to design this, both are two styles within the same type family, they're actually sharing the same structure both in loop and loopless, like a letter sauce on the right. Here the picture is to explain that, or in order to design the loopless, we're not just cut out the loop and then it's become the loopless. It's not like that. It has their own legibility standard that we have also to keep in mind while designing and while keeping them in the same structures as a type family. Here is the overall weights that we did. So mainly the varieties is in the loopless versions for the varieties used or in the headlines and also in the applications. And for the loop, it's just the regular for the main body text and some highlight in bold. So if we put it in a system, it might seem that the loopless versions will be for the headline and the loop versions will be on the body text or a small type size. However, right now, we are not having just that loop or loopless. We have more varieties than that. We have a loop monoline, we have the loop in contrast, we have the loopless serifed, we have the loopless condense and serif condense, for example. And then it might come to the point where we have a questions over how it got used done together. So here is the answer. This picture is actually taken from their local product that designed or from the local, and like it's a tamarind candy. So actually this one, if we didn't look at it from the designer perspective, its function or in terms of like it's informative, we understand what it's talking about, we know what is the highlight if we read it, but it's actually like readable, and it's just how they are using it. There is no right or wrong in using it.
It's really
like
common
this.
for the local product.
Yeah, and this mixed usage is not just happen. It happened before this day. The loop versions got used in a big type size or in a like kind of like headline style, and also the loopless version also got used in a paragraph style before. And even in the billboard, in the big type size, both loop and loopless are used like normally.
Yeah, so you could see that on the like left side, it stands for the modern house target for younger people, and on the right is for the high-end mansion from the same real estate.
And even from the street sign from their government, they were just like put the new signage with the loopless version.
So like you could see that which you could guess that which one is newer version of the signage.
We don't have the rules.
Yeah, just at mercy from the designer at that time.
So in the if we summary it, if we say that the green one is the frequently used, the yellow one is used like often, and the red one is like never being used. So here is the chart. Here's the chart could be it start to be a lot of green.
Yeah, a lot.
And
green.
the dark green is their commonly used area, and the one with the bright green is that we see it start to be in use more frequent, and the yellowish green is the area where we start to notice it's coming to be in use a lot lately.
Yeah, this is not the absolute idea. There are many factors that we have to consider, such as size and the media platform.
So we believe that the requirements of today is the loop and the loopless version should come together to cover all the usage. That is where we are now trying to provide the options for people to see how it could be in use.
This is a graphic Thai, both loop and loopless style. And because of the design variety, so it got popular among the Thai user here. So that's it.
That's it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop share.
I'll stop. The microphone.
Microphone.
All right. Okay. Sorry. Amateur. Okay. So you guys ready for Q&A?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So what is your take on the common perception when people say that loop designs is very traditional. It seems to kind of like refer to somewhat like old style classics or being a very formal. Can loop become like, modern or, have that kind of value? Like loopless, people perceive it as like, okay, modern, all this tech company, they want to kind of like go down that road to develop loopless to represent their product. But can loop version perceived as a modern typeface?
Absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes.
Yeah, because I think is because we didn't have a chance to take the advantage from the loop style version
that much.
I
mean, what we had before is like, I think the form is related. Like sometimes the loop is not in use because it's like when you bold, like when you increase the size and the look and feel were just awkward. And because this was designed for the text, for example, and it's not like it's look weird in the big size. That's why we don't want to use it as a headline. And I think we start to see it's coming when we have like the design which is more clean and like start to get more modern look, and also the weight varieties has also there is also
you are saying that the design of loop could be well, with the oversize in mind, or serving as a headline, like in a large size, like right from the drawing board.
Right. I could say that we still have a lot of room to explore more loop style for like modern look, good looking.
And even for now, I think that the loop version, like the traditional like cordier, for example, it's also like got used in like in a Muji style, like in a very Zen style, like that kind of like modern look style that people start to like just appear with the loop typeface on the screen in a movie like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it might be hard for loop style to like apply everywhere for like nowadays context, because
sometimes it's even though I would just or agree with you that like the loop should be like really well accepted. However, even though I had a chance to use it, sometimes I would just like, it's the loopless is better. Like it's look more clean. It's just like go fit with their illustration better, or the colors or the design. It's kind of like more quiet to me, to my generation.
But it seems like these days like clients would commission both.
Yes. Because I think it because for we talk when we talk about the Thai loop style, they think like why we have to do that, because we already have the default one on the system, so they don't want to like pay extra money for the loop style at that time. But now they more require more loop style in their branding,
for the sake of their identity, I think.
Yes. They care more, even on the just like paper letter.
So everything come together nicely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Another question, which is I will have to limit to the last question for this session. Rand asked a question: is there potential of hybrid between loop and loopless? Then don't feel too traditional, but also not too Latinized. I think in the sense like maybe simplified form. For example, like pot.
Huay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It depends on the designer.
I'm
Yeah.
a type designer.
Yeah, it depends on the type designer. So you could do like I don't see which one is wrong.
None of them actually like are, it really depends. Like as the presentations already demonstrate that we have a lot of flexibility in order to read tight loop and loopless. Maybe like if the designers start to do it that way, we able to read it, that's fine.
That's fine. And I think we not the first one who did something like that. It happened before I was born.
Yeah, maybe like there are some hybrid somewhere that we didn't like have
Well,
it.
we could refer to like obscure. That's class. That's classification. Yeah.
So the
But
obscure is like somewhere between. Like there's a loopless, there's a loop. The
So
loopless
it
like loop, and then like we have the obscure loop.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, that's a wrap up for this part of today, and we're gonna take a little break. Thank you very much, you guys. We're gonna
Thank
take
you.
we're gonna take a small break, and after this animation that you know prepare from the our sponsor, and then we will be back right after this.
Get a font in your inbox every single month. Font of the month.
Hi. Hello. So welcome back, everyone, to the last batch of today's speaker. Okay, hold on. So we're gonna hop over from from Thailand to our next door neighbor, Cambodia. We don't get to hear a lot from Cambodia, but this is the time that, you know, we will get to take a peek of what's going on over there. And again, before I hand it over to our Cambodian team, Q&A is very welcome. You can leave it in the Q&A section down below of your screen. And the speaker would try at their best to answer it off and online. It's okay. All right. Who's going to go first?
Sovichet. So yeah, so I'm going first for this presentation. Okay, so hello everyone. Let me share my screen. All right. Okay, cool. Now let's start. So today, I'm very pleased to talk in the Typographics 2021, which is a very good opportunity and, you know, like small catch up with friends and designers from around the world, because, like, you know, like it's been almost 2 years, you know, without talking. So I'm going through my slide first, and then Bot will begin his. All right, so things about my daily job as a type designer are not only about designing typefaces, but also to appreciate the beauty of the script and its history. Every time I do a presentation about Khmer script, I always, you know, like start with some history, how it evolved until the current form, and structure, which is still not much different from the old form if you look at them closely. We've seen Khmer script appear on different surfaces like inscription stones since 6th or 7th century, and manuscripts, handwritings, calligraphy, and the printing press, in which all of them play an important role in script evolution. Besides the traditional and conventional handwriting and letter forms, in the old days, people, you know, like they did try to draw letters in their creative ways, like try the shadowing, like some zigzag shape, and those could be found on music covers, book covers, sign paintings, etc. And some archives that were barely mentioned, such as this one, the ornamented lettering. And this one is pretty strange to me at first, but, you know, like after I learned about them, I feel like, well, that's not awkward at all, I would say. And, you know, like all of these are my inspiration, are my my motivation to look into like detail about the type design. You know, like even though the digital fonts are very popular in the country and around the world, there's still calligraphy and lettering appearing in some places across the country that you can see here from the shop sign in Battambang, which is located in the northwest of the country. Yep. And I think that's a very short introduction because we don't have pretty much time to talk the detail about the history and the evolution. And let's get into like the projects and some case studies that I've learned from them. Oh, I think something stop my sharing. Okay. Oh. All right. So as I recall, there are still less than 10 local companies that own a custom typeface. Some of them are done with the rebranding process, but some of them were just done like when they felt like now we need it and we just did it on some purpose. So since the day I started to do the type design as my career, I had chances to do custom projects for several international and local clients, and it was very interesting, you know, to see how type could solve some sort of problems in printing and the brand building. So this is the grab community, which was mentioned by Shirley in the first presentation. So there were many challenges, I would say, regarding the legibility and readability, because it requires a modern and simplified look of the Khmer script, which is not really popular. I mean, like the extreme, the modern of the design. So here's the overview of the type. We did the inline and the solid one as well. However, like Khmer is a complex one. It's a complex script. We have like theoretically we have 5 tiers, 2 tiers above, 2 tiers below, and 1 at the center as a base letter. So we had to make many compromisings and adjustment to make sure that when it comes out, we don't really get so many pushback, but we want to make sure that everyone could read it and they can still recognize the letter. And it turns out good. So they've been using it on mobile apps as the marketing campaign, on the posters. And here's from a recent commercial videos. Yeah. And in contrast to the grad project, Casper Sense. Casper Sense was the very first custom type projects when I started to do the type design as my professional career. So the loops and the curvy stroke that you see here bring the authenticity of the Khmer script into the looks and the feel of the typeface. In this project, we need to stay legible and readable for all ages of readers. Because Carlsberg is a beverage company, so they have to make the advertisement and campaign to all of the people across the country from all of the ages, because they don't really just promote or advertise the Carlsberg beer, but they also promote many other kind of beverages from juice to some kind of Coke. So that's why we cannot do it like too extreme modern. So we have to keep it like in conventional form that everyone could read it. Yep. So we did in 3 ways: the light, the medium, and the bold. Some preview of the design. Yep. So despite the fact that owning a custom Khmer typeface locally and internationally is becoming a demand, there's still a lack of type design talents in the country, in the community. There are many individuals in Cambodia who design typefaces, but as a hobby, not professionally. So I think maybe, I might be wrong, I don't know. I think Anagata, our team, might be the first design studio in the country that is capable of producing Khmer typefaces in the, for clients, not only for local, but for international clients. But I personally don't really want that. Like, I don't want us just to be the only one. I want to make sure that everyone can learn it, everyone have the access to the resource, to the training, to the courses. So actually, my background was a computer programmer. I've been doing programming for 5 years. But I'm a self-taught one. I'm a self-taught type designer. I've been designing type for 10 years, I guess, since I was in high school. However, I had gone through many trials and errors for 6 or 7 years until I learned the proper ways to design a good typeface. So it took me like like 6 to 7 years. So if somebody immediately jumps into designing a font like I did before, he or she would have gone through the same experience I had. Because there's no type design class, then there's no type design resources that you could easily find in Cambodia. Yeah, so I began talking about Khmer type 9 years ago in 2012, and I'm still doing it this day. So you can see here, I guess this is my very first slide presentation about designing a Khmer fonts. I was using a FontForge back then on a Linux distro. But fortunately, I met Ben. So we got in touch together, and we did the first Southeast Asian font workshop. And that was the first time that I went outside the country to teach about Khmer type. And that was done. You can see it, the first photo on the left. It was done in the old office of Kasandimak. And that was when I met Anuthin there in the evening, I remember. Yeah. And after I got involved within the type community and I started following designers from around the world, I was inspired by the campaign. I think everyone knows about it, the 36 days of types. And then I ran a similar one because I think that maybe Khmer could benefit from that. So I ran the 45 days of Khmer type. It who submitted their designs. And the campaign attracted many people around the country, and we've got featured on several local news and to cover on the importance of typefaces, lettering, art of letter, etc. And I also got a chance to talk about that event, that campaign at Type Tokyo in 2019, and here's some preview. So I got this from Peter. So this is a nice animation for the campaign. Yeah. Here in Cambodia, I ran a few meetups, workshop, and I went on talk shows to discuss about type design and typography in the community. I also set up some kind of, like in Cambodia, we are really used to the Telegram platform and Facebook platform. So I set up a small group or channel sharing news around the subject about type design, about type event, about type conference. And this experience, to be honest, and the traveling have helped and motivated me to find new ways to educate the community about type design and to start doing something more serious, maybe about it, like creating courses, learning resources for the next generations. Yeah. So I think that's it. And I'll move the stage to Bob. Unmute yourself.
Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
Give me a second. Let me just go back to the first slide. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Everything all good? Let's continue. So hi, everyone. My name is Bot. I'm the creative director and co-founder of Anuthin, so which sort of is my business partner and brother from another mother. So for me as a graphic designer, I think in Cambodia, in order for the type design industry to grow, graphic designers actually need to keep pushing the agenda of good typographic practices within their work, right? In order for the industry to grow. If graphic designers themselves don't talk about type, no one's going to care about type. So, and for me, it doesn't have to start from anything big like designing completely new full-fledged typefaces, because as you know, information surrounding designing Khmer typefaces is really limited. And it can start from something smaller in order for us to push this agenda, right? And for me, there's actually this simple thing that I thought of when I first started. In Cambodia, there's this requirement by the government for shops to have Khmer typography on their front side. And once you have the Khmer on there, you can do anything with other languages as well. So what ended up happening was that a lot of these different shops just, they didn't care about the Khmer as long as they pick a random Khmer font off of the internet, slap it onto their sign, they're done. And then this would translate on how they were designing their bilingual logo system as well when they have to use Latin and Khmer. So I thought this would be a really good status quo for us to change in order for there to be more awareness surrounding good typographic practices, right? So the first project that really helped me in pushing this agenda was when I got an opportunity to redesign the identity/logo for a music label here called Baramay. So Baramay was actually one of the key players that pushed the original music trend in Cambodia, and this is their old logo. And if I can revert all of your attention to the typography down at the bottom, as you can see, you have Khmer and Latin, very small there. The Khmer and Latin are not, they're not conveying sort of the same emotion, the same visual aesthetics. And that's really dangerous when you have to use them separately like this. And this is a pretty common problem amongst designers here when they are tasked with designing a bilingual logo / identity system is that due to the lack of good Khmer typefaces and type design talents that are in Cambodia, it really bottlenecks sort of the output of the general design industry as a whole. So for Baramai, of course, we started by doing sort of the boring brand discovery stuff, and then we ended up with sort of keyword. We sort of really questioned why the old logo needed to be sort of this complicated, right? And the keyword for this project was that it's cultured new gender evolution of culture, like respecting the past, but evolving it forward so that it would be more relevant. So we thought, well, visually a culture is just a cycle. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. But we want to respect culture and we want to just evolve it forward so that it would be more relevant. And, you know, that's the icon. And then we sort of worked on the Khmer and Latin, as you can see here, for the word mark. So when we just look at the Khmer and Latin, the word mark themselves, they're nothing special, especially for when we're looking at the Latin. The Latin is pretty much a basic neo-Cortez that we're all familiar with as designers, right? But then when we design sort of a matching Khmer set for them and we share certain attributes, for example, like the descender of the Y, we are sharing that with the Ba in the Khmer, we find that it actually really helps in changing how people within the company saw these different versions of the logo, right? Where else before, the Khmer version of the logo and the Latin version of the logo were conveying sort of different views of what the company is. Suddenly, when we redesigned it, all the versions of the logo feel the same, no matter what language the word mark is being typed in, which is a really interesting thing that we observed. And then we did a bilingual lockup as well, where we have the Khmer on top of the Latin. And in Cambodia, it's actually really important that if we have Khmer and Latin on the same space, the Khmer is on top. People can get really offensive. And then, of course, we looked at what music looked like. I'm going to go really fast. So Baramai, as a company that sells entertainment / fun, we thought it would be cool for them to have sort of a colorful identity system that's inspired off this like 7 days a week thing in our culture. So they have this really vibrant color system that they can use on images as well. And as you can see, they can either use the Khmer or Latin version of the logo. It feels like the same thing. It feels like one unit. And then everyone in the company have different colored business cards, which is fun. So that's Baramai. So the next project that really helped me in pushing this agenda was a company called Confluence. So Confluence is basically a company that helps other companies to break into the Cambodian and Southeast Asian market. And they had sort of the same issue where this is their previous logo. And as you can see, same problem due to the lack of matching Khmer and Latin sets within the available fonts that are on the market. It's really hard for them to design a consistent visual identity system with Khmer and Latin. And then when there's so much information to be balanced onto one logo lockup, it just becomes a mess. So with this project, we started off by pitching them sort of a new symbol. Of course, a confluence is the junction point of where two rivers meet. So that's basically the symbol itself, nothing too complicated. And once we have the symbol, we started to develop sort of this sort of unit grid system off of the logo so that we can align the type next to it. And this is actually pretty crucial because we're not just aligning up the Latin, we're not just creating the lockup for the Latin, we're creating a lockup for Khmer and Latin and Khmer as well. So having a system like this, a grid system like this, really helps us in aligning sort of all these different X height, all these different scripts, right? And generally for Khmer, the height of the baseline characters in Khmer is a little bit taller than the lowercase in Latin, but a little bit shorter than the uppercase in Latin. So that was something that we always have to keep in mind when we design sort of different bilingual logo systems like this. And then here's the bilingual version, and that's the 3 versions. And one thing that we sort of like to take note of is that when we work on a bilingual word mark like this, it's really important to not force visual aesthetics onto the letter forms themselves, albeit Khmer or Latin. We always try to look into sort of the history of both of these languages or script, if you will, and find what has already been done before and just use them in the right way we feel. So for example, for the logo type for Confluence, if you see in the yellow circle, you'll see sort of this stylistic F that is pretty common. I think a lot of us have seen sort of that F or a similar F in where else, right? So in Khmer, sort of the equivalent of that would be what we did for the character. So sort of having sort of that bar curved back into the stem itself is pretty common, and we see it a lot. We see it being done a lot within the historical Khmer typographic designs. So then we eventually worked on sort of the logo system for the divisions as well. And then this is the one that they always use right now, which is like the bilingual logo system. And finally, I'm going to go through this quickly. So both of the projects I showed you all have one thing in common, is that they have a symbol. So for this project, which is an identity for a toys retailer here in Cambodia, we didn't have a symbol. We redesigned their identity, which was this was the final logo that we went with. It's like a neat word mark. It fits into a rectangle. The idea was that you can take out the counter space of the letter forms, and then you can use it as toys because they sell toys. To little joke there. Yeah, and anyone can use this identity system. It's pretty much designed to be manageable and to be sort of childish. So then we got to work on designing sort of the Khmer version of the word mark. And what we found out was that we can't really create sort of the square, the rectangle lockup, just because of how Khmer is written. But in the design, we found that we had to change our approach a little bit in translating sort of this word mark into Khmer, rather than looking at the actual physical forms of the Latin and trying to find a way to translate them into Khmer. We needed to look at it from more of a perspective of how can we extract the essence of the Latin and place them into a Khmer and make them feel like the same family. And even though they don't share the same curves, even though they don't share the same attributes, they still belong to the same. They still feel like they belong to the same family. And then finally, we just ended up using the Khmer as sort of the main marquee on the signboard. The logo was sort of the secondary element. And yeah, that is it. That is sort of the end of my slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you. That was awesome. Well, let's do Q&A quickly. We kind of running a little behind the schedule here. So, my question to you about Khmer script, which is very distinctive reverse contrast. We'll see that a lot in
Khmer we could see them a lot in the in a particular style.
Yeah, could you amplify that a little bit? Like, where's come from? How did it, become like sort of like a character?
Well, yeah. So you mean the reverse one, right? You mean the reverse, the bold one, the thick one. So that's the mold style, if we call it. So it's like it's used for official names, anything that they want to praise in the context. To be honest, I don't really know when it started to happen, that kind of reverse one in the typeface, in the digital typeface. But we could see many of them on the temples, on the pagoda temples, because I guess that was the inspiration from the calligraphy, because you might not find many type of calligraphic style in Khmer, because they tend to use the same style, the same method, like the broad nib pen or the brushes for painting the letter. So in order to make it look more authentic and smooth, so the designer, they took that and they smoothened them in the digital typeface. Yeah. But the function of that kind of design visual, and you want to break someone and you want to make something stand out in the context. But
all right,
let me add a little bit. Like, now people might want to avoid that because it looks too traditional, it looks too old. So now people are moving from the kind of bold and thick and reverse contrast of the design into like the monoline, like which look more modern, more clean. Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, I could dive into that question, even more, but unfortunately we don't have that, luxury of time here. I have a question here in the Q&A box for both Is the height of Khmer and Thai almost exactly the same design-wise? I don't know if that's directly to both, but I don't know if Tep want to jump in. I don't. Go ahead.
Oh, I think bot is disconnected.
Oops.
I think he lost his connection.
Well,
Okay, so
maybe.
I will answer this and wait for him to get.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the height of Khmer and Thai, actually we had that kind of discussion with Kasantimatem in 2019 when we designed a multilingual typefaces that was just featured on a magazine, maybe Anuthin, the magazine, right?
Yeah,
that's a convit.
I think Lao is also in the talk as well.
Yeah, in the talk as well. Yeah, so that really depends on the context as well. Like if you want to have all three of them merged together in a single font file, or the use case is just like for Khmer and Latin. So I'll be talking into two factors. One is when we want to do like just Khmer and Latin all together for like a brand. So we tend to make the Khmer and in the middle, the Khmer height in the middle of the capital and the lowercase. But when we have the Khmer and Thai, we have to figure out like if the Thai is already high enough, like it is already high enough within the metric that we expect, or the Thai is too short if compared to the Latin. So we have to compromise. Like if the font is used on the screen, we may follow Thai because screen is very limited. But if it is used for body, we might go a little bit higher than Thai. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's answered the question. Well, too bad the Q&A, you know, we're running out of time here. So I think I will have to stop there. And again, if any one of you would like to ask question, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box. And I'm pretty sure Tep and Boat will come around and answer.
Sorry about that. My internet
no
sort of
problem,
whizzed out on me.
at all, no sweat. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, that was just the tips of the iceberg anyway for the tour of Southeast Asia, and we still leave out some of the major stuff like Laos or Burmese script into this mix. So maybe next time we could shed some light on those subjects. And I personally to wrap it up today presentation, I think this is just the tips of the iceberg. We just scratch the surface on these issues, and like I said, Southeast Asia is still sort of like a new found in the old map of typographies, and I think a design business just rediscover the power of type and try to incorporate that. And now that they realize that they could customize it, they could have more choice from many suppliers that now come into the business and try to bring this part of the world to the surface. So yeah, it's just a quick tour, and that could lead to more meaningful stuff. And I hope to see and hear more of the stuff, contents from this part of the world beyond this set of speaker that we have today. Thank you, Sasha. I turn this back to you for the wrap up of the last day of Typographics.
Thank you, Anuthin. I completely echo everything you just said. It's the tip of the iceberg, and I'm so glad and so fortunate that we could have at least this conversation. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness in how you curated the day, and I appreciate and thank all of the speakers and presenters today for taking us on this very short but very informative and very detailed sort of journey through your languages and through the scripts. And I think and hope that we can have more of these conversations ongoing. I'm very eager to see more of this, and I'm learning with every session. And I have a million questions that I will follow up with everyone, and I think our audience will as well. So I've been pasting everyone's social media, everyone's websites. Please follow them. They're doing amazing work. You should all see this stuff and keep up with it. It's the beauty of social media. We can kind of keep in touch this way, but and reach out to them if you have more questions that this doesn't leave us enough time for. Please reach out to them, connect with them, ask them questions, engage with them, hire them. They're amazing. They're doing wonderful work, and we should all sort of continue to do this. So I'll wrap up. Thank you, Anuthin, for today. Thank you all the speakers. Thank you all 39 speakers for the 5 weeks that we've had, for the 10 days we've had. Thank you all the attendees for joining us all this time. I'm gonna post in the chat once more, like if you wanted to watch this session again, if you wanted to watch any of those sessions, you can catch them all on YouTube. We thank our sponsors. We thank Cooper Union for letting us do this again, and we hope to see you all next year. Be well, be safe, be healthy, and be in touch. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day and weekend.